Jacob wakes up at 8 a.m. feeling that familiar dread. Another day, another battle with his motivation. He drags himself to the bathroom, staring at his reflection while brushing his teeth. What if this simple act of brushing teeth could actually be training his brain for unstoppable motivation? Sounds crazy, right? But neuroscience shows us that motivation isn't some magical feeling that strikes randomly. It's built through consistent habits that create powerful neural pathways. Let's look at Sarah, a freelance writer who struggled with procrastination for years. Every morning she'd wake up, check her phone, and immediately feel overwhelmed by the day ahead. Then she discovered something simple but transformative: starting her day with intentional movement. Sarah now begins each morning with a 7-minute yoga flow followed by a 5-minute dance party to her favorite high-energy song. Is this just some feel-good nonsense? Actually, science shows that morning movement releases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is basically miracle growth for your neurons, creating mental clarity that lasts for hours. The key is starting small. Use the 2-minute rule. Commit to just 120 seconds of movement to overcome inertia. Even on days when Sarah feels absolutely drained, she can manage those 2 minutes, which almost always expands naturally into her full routine. Remember, motivation doesn't create action. Action creates motivation. Jacob thought gratitude practices were cheesy until he met James, an ER nurse working 12-hour shifts. Despite the stress, James maintained remarkable resilience through a targeted appreciation practice. James carries a tiny notebook in his scrubs and writes down 3 ultra-specific moments of gratitude each day. Not vague things like my health, but precise observations like the way sunlight hit my coffee cup at 7:12 a.m. or the relief in Mrs. Rodriguez's eyes when her test came back negative. This isn't just feel-good fluff. Neuroscientists have found that specific gratitude activates the medial prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain linked to resilience and positive decision-making. When you're struggling with motivation, your brain is often stuck in threat detection mode. Gratitude literally shifts your neural activity to the problem-solving regions of your brain. Want to level up this practice? Try gratitude triangulation. Thank your past self for something they overcame. Acknowledge something valuable in your present moment and express gratitude for a future opportunity you're working toward. This 3-dimensional appreciation creates a motivation bridge across time. Maria dreamed of writing a novel for 12 years but never could find the motivation to start. The breakthrough came when she abandoned vague aspirations and embraced the power of micro goals. Every morning, Maria writes exactly 87 words before breakfast. Not 100, not as much as possible, precisely 87 words on her vintage typewriter. This specificity matters because it transforms an intimidating creative pursuit into a concrete, measurable action. This works because of something psychologists call the Zeigarnik effect. Unfinished tasks stay top of mind until completed. By setting such a small goal, Maria always finishes, which gives her brain a hit of dopamine and builds momentum. Even more powerful, she often continues writing past her goal, sometimes for hours. Because starting is almost always the hardest part. To create your own micro goal system, use this template. When I am in insert location here, I will do insert tiny action here for insert exact time or number. For example, when I'm at my desk after breakfast, I will send 1 important email in under 5 minutes. Specificity destroys procrastination. Jacob noticed something fascinating about his friend Tom, a startup founder who seemed perpetually motivated despite constant setbacks. The secret wasn't Tom's willpower, but his deliberate environment design. Tom created what he called a focus nook in his apartment with just 3 elements: a $25 daylight lamp that mimics natural sunlight, noise-canceling headphones hanging on a neon hook, visibility matters, and a phone jail, literally a kitchen safe with a timer where his phone lives during deep work sessions. A Stanford study shows your physical environment accounts for about 40% of habit success. Motivation isn't just mental, it's environmental. Instead of relying on willpower, engineer your surroundings to make motivated actions the path of least resistance. Try this. Identify your top distraction, usually your phone, then create a physical barrier that requires at least 20 seconds of effort to overcome. Those 20 seconds are just enough friction to break the automatic reach for distraction when motivation dips. Lisa was a talented artist who rarely shared her work due to fear of criticism. Her motivation breakthrough happened not through productivity hacks but through identity reconstruction. Instead of focusing on what she did, Lisa began reimagining who she was. She deliberately started introducing herself at creative meetups as the woman who speaks up about creative block, even though this terrified her initially. Within weeks, she noticed herself naturally living up to this new identity. Cognitive science explains this through self-perception theory. We believe what we repeatedly say and do. Rather than trying to find motivation to take specific actions, rewrite your identity to become someone for whom those actions would be natural and automatic. Create your own identity script using this format. I'm someone who inserts specific action here when specific trigger occurs. For example, I'm someone who immediately tackles the hardest task when starting my workday. Then act accordingly, even if you have to fake it initially. Your brain will eventually accept this new identity as truth. David was a perfectionist app developer whose fear of mistakes paralyzed his motivation. The game changer? Learning to systematically harvest insights from his failures. Now David keeps what he calls a whoops journal where he scientifically analyzes 3 mistakes each week. Not to beat himself up, but to extract specific lessons for future improvement. He treats each error as valuable data rather than evidence of inadequacy. The psychology here is fascinating. Post-mortem analysis actually increases dopamine response to challenges, making your brain more motivated to tackle difficult tasks in the future. By reframing failures as experiments, David transformed his relationship with setbacks. Try this template in your own practice. Today's lesson from insert specific area here was insert specific insight, which I'll apply to insert future scenario. For example, today's lesson from forgetting my client presentation was that my calendar notifications are too easily dismissed, which I'll fix by setting 3 staggered reminders for each important meeting. Remember Pavlov's dogs? Aisha, a medical student, applied the same conditioning principles to hack her motivation through sensory anchors. Aisha dabs peppermint essential oil on her wrists only during intense study sessions. She's also created a specific focus playlist that she plays exclusively when tackling her hardest subjects. After several weeks, just smelling peppermint or hearing the first notes of her playlist triggers her brain to enter deep focus mode automatically. This works because sensory stimuli create powerful memory associations through limbic system activation. Your brain naturally connects specific sensory inputs with mental states after repeated pairing. For maximum impact, create a multi-sensory motivation anchor by layering scent, essential oils, sound, specific playlists, and touch, holding a particular object like a smooth stone. Use these stimuli only during your most focused, motivated states. Soon, these sensory cues will become triggers that instantly access your peak mental states. Carlos was a high school teacher constantly battling burnout until he discovered the counterintuitive truth. Strategic rest dramatically increases motivation. Instead of pushing through fatigue, Carlos began tracking his natural focus waves using a simple app that resembles a tidal chart. He documented when his energy naturally peaked and crashed throughout the day, then redesigned his schedule to align with these rhythms rather than fighting them. The science here involves ultradian rhythms, natural cycles of 90 to 120 minutes where your brain oscillates between high focus and recovery needs. By honoring these biological patterns, Carlos found his overall motivation and output increased substantially while burnout disappeared. Implement the 20-20-20 rule to maintain energy. Every 20 minutes, take 20 seconds to look at something 20 feet away. This tiny reset prevents cognitive fatigue and helps maintain motivation through longer work sessions. Emma, a sales director, struggled with short-term motivation until she developed a unique practice: writing letters from her 70-year-old self analyzing her current decisions. Each Sunday evening, Emma spends 15 minutes writing in the voice of her future self, offering wisdom and perspective on her immediate challenges and choices. This temporal distance helps her see daily frustrations as the temporary obstacles that they truly are. This practice leverages temporal self-appraisal theory. We make better choices when connected to our future identity. By mentally projecting forward, Emma overcomes present biases that typically damage motivation. Try this prompt: what advice would my 90-year-old self give about today's challenges? The answers often reveal how many of our motivation blockers stem from short-term thinking and inflated concerns that will be insignificant in the broader arc of our lives. Raj, a software engineer, found his motivation consistently tanking after 4 to 5 months on any project. His solution wasn't better time management, but deliberate wonder cultivation. Now, Raj dedicates 15 minutes daily to exploring random Wikipedia articles using the special random feature. This seemingly unproductive habit actually reignited his creativity and motivation by exposing him to ideas outside his usual domain. Neuroscience explains why this works. Novelty-seeking behavior stimulates dopamine production, the same neurochemical responsible for motivation and reward. By regularly exposing your brain to unexpected information, you maintain neuroplasticity and enthusiasm that transfers to your core work. Create your own curiosity practice with this template. Today, I will explore insert specific topic here through the lens of an insert unrelated profession expert. For example, today, I will explore my marketing challenge through the lens of a marine biologist. These unusual connections often produce breakthrough insights that revitalize motivation. Even with these powerful habits, motivation will sometimes falter. When it does, implement the 2-day rule. Never miss your key habits twice in a row. 1 day of disruption won't derail your progress, but 2 consecutive misses can break a neural pathway. When motivation seems completely absent, try a 5-minute space makeover. Simply rearranging your physical environment can create the neurological novelty needed to restart your motivation system. Move your work to a different location, change the lighting, or simply reorganize your desk. Finally, become a scientist of your own motivation by tracking energy, focus, and mood patterns. Jacob now uses a simple 1 to 10 rating system 3 times daily to identify when his motivation naturally peaks and dips. After a month of data collection, he discovered that his creative motivation spikes on Tuesday mornings and Thursday afternoons. Knowledge he now uses to schedule his most important work. The science of neuroplasticity tells us it takes an average of 66 days to fully form a new habit. That might seem long, but it's a small investment for a lifetime of reliable motivation. For the next 48 hours, become a habit scientist. Collect data on what energizes you and depletes you. This self-knowledge is the foundation for building your personal motivation system. The most motivated people aren't those with superhuman willpower. They're the ones who have engineered their habits, environment, and identity to make motivation the default rather than the exception.